Hi, and welcome to this episode of Zeitgeist podcast with Niklas and Flo. Hi, I'm Niklas.
Flo.
Today we're going to talk about regulations, and I think there's a bit of a different approach in the US and in Europe, and I think it's really interesting, also with different results, and I think that's really interesting to get your take on it. I think
Yep, I feel that we are in a big shift when it comes to new technology in general. We see that data protection, especially in Europe, is holy grail, super important, and I feel the need for it. It is definitely a thing here in the US too, but here we're pushing more for the limits of what is possible in this space, rather than first coming up with limitations for things we don't even see yet. I guess one of the first examples I have in mind when we're talking about new technology and regulations is probably like the new AirPod Pro 3. When it comes to live translation, Europe is defensive about data protection that I don't feel that Apple and Europe will come on good terms yet, at least, to release this future. And I just see, and I believe that the majority in our world will probably see what big pro live translation and technology might be. I mean, just imagine you're talking to someone who's just talking Spanish. I don't talk Spanish. I don't understand Spanish. He's just talking to me in Spanish, and my AirPods are translating live to me in, let's say, English or German or whatever, so that I can really have a conversation with someone who's not speaking my language. I think this is like a big pro and opens new doors. But again, Europe feels it is more important to protect the conversation at this moment instead of sending basically the whole conversation to Apple servers to translate it in real time and send it back to the device. Yes, my 2 cents.
so. I also think that the approach of the EU often feels like they have given up already, kind of. Like, we cannot win in technology, we win in regulations. I think that's the wrong approach. I think regulations happening too early kind of kill the whole innovation, basically. And I think the approach of the US usually is to just wait a little longer. It's not that you don't regulate or that you don't establish rules, but I think generally you just wait quite a bit longer until you start doing these things. And that basically gives the early innovation environment quite a head start. And if you start with the regulation, the innovation gets more expensive. And I think that's a huge challenge because, if you look at LLMs, for example, in Europe, we only have Mistral, like in France, which are also people that have left Meta before, basically, as I understand it. So they worked for the big US tech companies. They were in France, started the company there. So kind of lucky Europe that there's like one company in this space, but it's just too little. We also have Black Forest Labs in Germany, kind of who developed Flux, which is a very good image generation engine. But if you compare it to the ecosystem in the US, it's really little. And it's just like, it feels like these regulations, if you talk about like these little innovations, they are just like snowflakes, like the starting of something bigger before they kind of accelerate or become a snowball and can accelerate. And these regulations, they are just like melting these snowflakes away. It's just so difficult. And if you have from a funding environment perspective, if you capital can allocate to any position in the world, right? So it's if you're a startup, you're raising a serious round, you will probably go where the general environment is best for your business. And in a lot of times that seems to be not Europe, but other places. And I think that's very sad because on the other hand, talent is a lot cheaper in Europe than it is in the US. So there should be also advantages starting a company here, because you can basically start it with less capital, and it's still a gigantic market. Like the EU has a lot of inhabitants and actually quite a lot of capital.
Yeah, but in order to do that, you first of all need to figure out the whole bureaucracy wheel we have in Europe. I mean, it is correct that employees are cheaper in Europe than in the US, but it is just a headache to even opening up a company with all the paperwork, the whole tax situation you need to understand. So um, when and I don't want to get too far away what we're actually talking about, but if we're trying to start a company in Germany 2 days per week, you're just dealing with paperwork, tax, uh, a lot of these small headaches, so that you can't really focus on your actual business. Um, what makes life not really easy.
Yeah, maybe that's also something for another podcast, but yeah, that's general. And if you, once again, I think like it's not that regulation in general is always bad. Like that's not, but I think especially early regulation just kills initiatives, like small initiatives a lot. Like because small companies just don't have the money to take care of a lot of the compliance necessary. And once again, you like the really good people, they can start a business in the US or in Germany or in the UAE or wherever. You can incorporate the company in different places. It's feasible. And I think, especially if more money is involved, then the company will just find the best place to be started, basically.
Yeah, it is possible. Anyway, I guess we still see some dark clouds coming up, at least on ChatGPT. I don't know if you heard about it, but they just released a note that they don't want to give any medical or legal advice in the future, which also feels like some kind of going step backwards. I don't know. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. And in one sense, I find it a bit funny. They now seem to be kind of building AI partners or AI boy and girlfriends or however you call it, like XAI and ChatGPT. They want to be like, become more or less the partner and open it up and have this like sexual content as well. And on the other hand, they step back on the medical side, on the law side. So it's also what I find really interesting is that they seem to see it as less risky to be in this kind of space.
I
That looks
just
great.
question
And then that, yeah.
why should OpenAI go down this road? Is it because they feel liable if they give advice, or is it maybe because in the long run some medical advisors and some legal advisors could lose their jobs because people are first running into ChatGPT to ask all these questions, which could be answered real quick instead of paying someone a lot of money to give basically the same answer.
So I think that's primarily about bad press currently. I think they get like just, so I don't think they care about people losing jobs, to be honest. I would rule this completely out. Then the things that remain is, okay, maybe you have to be a certified practitioner or something like that to give medical advice. So they want to avoid these legal battles that are ahead, that I'm not sure of, if it's really something they care that much about, or if they would say, we take it on, if it's a large market, we can make a lot of money there, we'll just see how it goes. But what really has happened already is that, especially like on the psychological side of things, people that are not that stable and used these tools, I'm not sure if we had suicides yet around that, but there's this really place where like the actions that people then derived from advice they've gotten from ChatGPT led to really bad press. And I can imagine that they just don't want to be on in this very uncertain area, basically, or in this edge case where you have that high influence on like people, and the outcome is probably that the media will report on that is something they don't want to be in, and I don't know if they feel that they can't kind of bulletproof this kind of, then it's probably also a good idea, because if the consequences are that people commit suicide or something like that, after talking to ChatGPT and it gives them some kind of advice, then it might be a good idea to do it and leave it to medical professionals. But I think it's more on that side, actually, that the harm caused by the bad advice is very large. And the media attention and scrutiny and all these things that come thereafter is also very large.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. So maybe write in the comments what you think about this, also about the whole regulation environment. And that was this episode of Zeitgeist podcast. Please like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.